Yeah. So I'm welcoming everyone to this event, to a fundraising event for No Name Kitchen. If you haven't heard about No Name Kitchen, they started out in 2017 in Belgrade. Uh, like just a couple of international activists, they witnessed the injustices and the violence that the government was enabling and sometimes even pushing with their policies. Not just the Serbian government. We will talk more about how like the Hungarian government mostly is like pushed violence, and yeah, they even created a whole like job for it. It's called like határvadász, which is like border hunters, which you don't need any education for it. You just finish elementary school and then you get a gun and go hunt. Um, and yeah, and the EU as well. No Name Kitchen has created an on the move healthcare, has documented the violence that's been happening at our borders, have given legal advices, and because of their name, have cooked a lot of good food uh, in Belgrade as well and all around. If you want to help them, they are now looking for volunteers in Bulgaria, or you can buy merch from them. For this event, we have a special coupon code. It's event 15. A lot, I think like 50% of discounts, kinda. Please check them out. For the stream, you have a link in the description. And yeah, in this room where we are in Goya, on the walls you can see the bench press pictures. They put they chose the topic of music, and they are really lovely. In the description you can see the link for their Instagram as well. Please go check them out and give them all the love. Yeah, another thing to say that this is our first event organized by Fiacca. Fiacca is a Budapest organization that we started. It's with my best friend. We want to open a community space. And before having the funding and everything and the legal stuff for Fiacca, we figured that we will organize events to showcase what we stand for, what our ideology is. One is anti-imperialism, which I think No Name Kitchen is like pushing and fighting against. And yeah, and we will have even an event on July 14, which is a movie screening event, Fiacca Cinema, where one of our Bulgarian friends are putting together 5 short movies, and it will be outside. The title of the movies are still a mystery, not just to the people, for me as well. But yeah, um, what did I wanted to say? Is there more information? Yes, there. With the food, we will have food in hopefully in an hour. They're late as well. Like we are blaming everything on the sun. It's like 30 degrees here, and it's like yesterday on the Pride, it was like a little bit colder. It was really nice, but today I don't know why. But even here in this little room, it's a bit too sauna-like. Yeah, with the food, if you give any donation, uh, online we forgot. Online we will have, I think, the link for my Revolut. You can send Revolut or donation on that. You can get a sticker for your donation and a free bowl of food and a salad in an hour, kinda ish. Today we will have Cargonomia do a presentation about how they built up in the past 20 years whole system of carrying food from Jambog, kind of connecting the village to the big city. Hopefully Logan won't be too late. He should be already here, but it does. It, they are such a lovely guys. They brought the vegetables that we are making the food out of. Um, and yeah, after that we will have a little workshop. It will be kind of a role-playing game, and yeah, and after that at 8 o'clock we will have a short movie screening. We will tonight we will have 4 movies. Uh, one made by an Iraq guy who's coming. One is a puppet movie animation, and yeah, the rest you will see. It will be an incredible night. Hopefully, of course, it will be because we are here together and we will eat such a delicious food. So, um, as a start, I wanted to uh, tell you because I'm from Subotica, and during the high tensions in late 2010s, Subotica was a main component, a main hotspot, and a lot of violence happened there by the police and a lot of pushbacks. And it was, as a guy from Subotica, it was such an absurd thing to see that like 25 years ago we were bombed, and we needed to move as well, or like some of us moved, and those people didn't had the solidarity for the people who went through the same thing. And yeah, this event is the main goal is to build up that solidarity, to show that here in Budapest they have an ally, they have people who will cook for them and welcome them with open arms. And yeah, it's it's sad because like sorry in yeah, all good, yeah, okay. Now you could see on Budapest streets the Ukraine against Ukraine propaganda as well, that you can like draw parallels with the same anti-immigrant propaganda that Orban did like 8 years ago. Is the same kind of demonizing people who are just trying to find a new home. So yeah. Okay, I'm just checking our technician. He's so serious and so good. Yeah, just say I can I introduce you? Arpian the technician, Briggy is cooking. We have 2 more volunteers helping, so it's off. Oh, more people. Cool. So, I I can tell a story about violence that I saw at the border, but before I speak more, I wanted to ask if there's anyone here who wants to like share an experience. No. I think everyone has seen violence at the borders. Or Subotica had like a year ago even shootings inside the city because of how the Serbian cops have just violently taken people to the forest and stripped them naked and beat them and took everything away from them. And now, like, when a lot of desperate people are in one point, in Subotica, they created, like, they pushed them in this, like, old factory. So it's a hotspot. It was a center for anyone who didn't had any moral to go there and like just try to abuse these people. A lot of stories that we can hear that they asked like 50 euros just so like you can charge your phone for them, or they would like just ride you to the border and ask for like 200 euros. So it's incredible that some people have no soul, or not just no soul, but like use uh people who don't have anything. Like they have like, first of all, their country took the right to live away from them, and now other countries that should have given help or asylum for them are now taking away their right to eat or move. It's sad. Um, yeah, just checking. Where is my dog, by the way? Have anyone seen my dog? Okay, Moira is here as well. She's a bit of an anarchist. She doesn't believe in personal territory. Uh, a lot of times she got me in trouble at the border. Um, yeah, she doesn't like cops. Even more than me. One time, so one of the stories that I have is one time I bought her these CBD snacks, and on the package it was like a marijuana plant. So I was just going on my train. Ah, here you go. You heard my heard that I was talking about. Yeah. So yeah, you got me in trouble one time. Opa. And on the train, the tariff guy who checks if you have any like other stuff uh asked me to open my bag. The snack was on top of my bag, so he saw this and he immediately was like, okay, you need to pack everything out of your bag. And I was like, just turn the snack bag, just turn it around and you will see that's for dogs. And it wasn't even opened, and he forced me to open it and then just spread all my like pens and everything that I had in my bag just through the train, while I had Moira on my side, and he didn't like Moira, so he was like, "Take that dog away from me." And I was like walking away with the with Moira, and then he was like, "No, you need to be here." I'm like, then like tell me what you like. How can I be there and here as well? So he went through all my stuff because of a CBD snack. And when he didn't find anything, he was more mad at me somehow. I don't know, like crazy. But then the Serbian and the Hungarian cops came, and I asked them like, "This is unfair. Why did he do it? Why did he needed to humiliate me in front of everyone?" And they were like, "Oh, but you shouldn't bring snacks, like CBD snacks, like opened." And I was like, "No, it was closed, but he forced me to open it." Like, so you can come in. Uh, One lesson to learn is, if a border cop asks you to open something, don't open them. Like, force them to open it, because that's illegal for them to open it. I know the pressure and everything is just, it's they force you to open it, and if they find something or anything, then yeah, they can yeah, just arrest you. Just for the stream, I will tell, like, Logan and Cargonomia came as well. Cargonomia, they will talk more about Cargonomia, but Jambo Kert, it's like an hour away from here, with like all the good vegetables and every delicious stuff. Yeah, I can. Logan, are you already on for like? Then I will introduce Logan to you guys. You can come here. Logan, do you have a presentation or? Okay. Do you speak? Okay. Then a picture slide. Okay, just give it to him and. Here's the microphone.
And I should talk into this? Okay. Can we start? Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Logan. I'm going to talk about degrowth, cargonomia, local food systems, and agroecology in Hungary, and how they all connect together. Sorry, I'm a bit late, but I left Oslo at 11 o'clock p.m. on Friday, and I've been traveling until now. And like 17 minutes ago, I just met our team at Newgati, and we came here with Cargo Bike. I was at the this year's International Degrowth Conference and International Society of Ecological Economics Conference. There was a lot of really interesting discussions. And before I talk about our projects here, I can try to share with you what were some of the most interesting discussions from the most recent degrowth conference. It was really, really interesting that the fact we had 1,000 people together who already were pretty well familiar with what degrowth is and the criticism it brings to traditional economic systems. But there was a big representation from activists and spokespersons from the Global South, telling us that here in Europe or in North America, where we're comfortably criticizing growth in our flats from the walls of the university, that this isn't enough, that the Global South, which is really experiencing the biggest impacts of human exploitation, environmental exploitation, expects us to do more, not just talk about and make great criticisms in books and in conferences at universities, but to challenge our countries to acknowledge this and actually do something about it. So there was a really strong discussion about the further cooperation, not just cooperation, but an active response from the global north to accept responsibility for the real challenges which are being faced in the historically exploited parts of the world. Another really interesting discussion, since this conference was in Norway. I don't know how much you know about how Norway gets its wealth, but it's the biggest oil exporter, or the biggest oil producer in all of Europe. Norway, this nice green natural country, high standard of living, historic socialist state which invests a lot in social systems in the country, but mostly with the profits that they get from selling oil to the rest of the world. From within the Norwegian congregation, there was a huge amount of call to action to get their country to acknowledge its historic responsibility for promoting fossil fuels, and also to start to think about a Norway beyond fossil fuels. And the fact that a lot of the wealth that they're creating through the sales of fossil fuels is going in to fund conflict. A conflict that is really in the forefront right now is, of course, the conflict between Israel and Palestine, and how a lot of the investments coming from the Norwegian funds are going into companies in Israel, which is funding the genocide and conflict and violence in Palestine as well. And this we might hear in the background of news here in Hungary. I know it's a big topic right now in the United States, where the young people in universities who have been, not just in the last year, but for the last 5 years, bringing attention to the idea that the US cannot keep funding a military state or military base in the Mideast, which is Israel, because it has dire consequences. And now they're being attacked for this, and not only are the students being attacked for this, but the universities as well. So this topic, which doesn't necessarily, you wouldn't think it would be the first thing that would come up at a degrowth conference, but it was right there in the forefront. And my own personal criticism or approach, which I tried to bring to the degrowth conference, was that those of us who can say that we acknowledge the problems with economic system focused on profit orientation, it's not enough for us to just be satisfied with our own knowledge. We need to create opportunities for others to unplug themselves from an exploitative system. In my personal opinion, and based on the work that I'm going to show you more about today, it's not only one thing to have a good intellectual understanding of the problems with our current economic systems. We need to attach this to a practical knowledge of how we could build together realistic alternatives for everything. I'll talk more about food today and food production, but we need to create realistic alternatives for mobility, for energy, for housing, for medicine and health, for clothing, for all of the products that we need. And that's why we have to blend this big intellectual interest that we have on criticizing the regime, criticizing the economic regime, criticizing the political regime, and match it with education and outreach, which helps people develop their own skills for self-sufficiency, so that they don't need to buy their way to a more conscious world or to a greener world, but they actually make it themselves. Part of that is our own knowledge, and part of that is how we organize. So that's the small summary of the degrowth conference. And I'm actually glad that I left this degrowth conference with a lot of tension. So it means even within the community that the discussions we've had historically have not been enough, and they need to keep going forward to be fully inclusive, to actually have a political impact. So I'm more interested in hearing about you and your questions you have than telling about myself. One, because I do this all the time. Two, because I did this for the last week, like every day, too many times in a day. But I'll just briefly go through who we are and what we do. And make sure you acknowledge that in the room right now, we have 3 of our other team members here. So Tristan, Arthur, Renee. And they have as much to say about our project as I do. So I hope they get involved in the discussion as well. So we are Cargonomia, but we're also representing Zsámbaki Biokert, which is a small farm located about 1 hour from Budapest. And we work together in a collaboration. Cargonomia is a public commons cargo bike center and local food distribution point. Zsámbaki Biokert is an organic farm. It's about 3.5 hectares. There's 7 or 8 people who work there every day in the garden and earn their income from farming. There's about 5 or 6 other people who help the farm in some way and also earn their income through the farm. And Cargonomia, it's not Cargonomia's farm, but Cargonomia works very closely to provide support to the farm. And this cooperation gives Cargonomia a chance to use the farm as a living classroom for the programs we organize and for the benefit of the people who pass through our traineeship program. I'll talk more about our traineeship program as well. Can you go to the next? That's what the farm would look like in a beautiful day after, well, one of the most beautiful times of the year when we were on top of the weeding. It doesn't always look that beautiful. Just give you that to show you an idea of the scale that we work in. Most of the work is done by hand, by choice. This is a big challenge for us because handwork, paying actual human beings instead of machines, chemicals to do the work, it's more expensive. Can you go to the next? Yeah, that was the day before I left. One of my great colleagues got married, and we tried to preserve the tradition not only of working with the horse, but the traditions related to agriculture in the village. Not only ecosystems are under threat because of the globalized imperialist agricultural system, but also all of our food traditions. No matter what country you come from, it had its own distinct food traditions tied to culture, tied to place, tied to embeddedness, which the globalized food system challenges. It makes us forget it. It's turned everything into processed, soulless, meaningless food, and we lost a lot of our food traditions, so we also tried to preserve these traditions as well. Next. Next. Yeah, I do teach in a university as well, but I'm much happier taking people who usually belong in the university outside the university through engagement activities by creating and encouraging the type of research which engages with, through a participatory, equity-based manner, researchers and groups who might be researched. This type of research, which is an actual true participation, it shouldn't be a novelty, but it's very, very new and hard to get accepted within universities. But I try to create ways for students to get out into the community in Budapest, in Vienna, where I teach as well, to break down this bubble. Next. Next. Yeah, we're Cargonomia. We're a cargo bike center. This is what some cargo bikes and trailers look like. We have about, together, 12 bikes, 2 or 3 trailers. Half of them were built here in Hungary. The other half were bought used from the international market. We're not a bike rental center. We've addressed the problem here in our community is that cargo bicycles are hard to access, 1. 2, more people would benefit from non-petroleum or non-combustion or non-car-based mobility if they had access to cargo bikes. The third problem we wanted to address is that the people who don't have a cargo bike but want to use it are slightly afraid to try it because they never got to try one. So what did we do? We made a commons sharing system which tries to address all of these 3 issues. So anyone, any private citizen can come to us and borrow a bike for free. Of course, we accept donations because bikes have costs, but you don't have to pay for it. We'll teach you how to use it. We'll show you how to use it in a safe space, and we'll make recommendations based on what you want to do. Every year, we organize hundreds of public, we call them teherbicikli simogató. So you can go and caress the cargo bike. You can go and try it and pet it and feel comfortable and make friends with it so that you have the confidence enough to use it yourself. And then you might say okay, this sounds very simple. Yeah, there's these young people who like bikes and okay, it's great, but it's a real low level problem. We need to talk about bigger problems. I promise you, learning more about doing more with the bicycle, learning more about fixing your own bike is a good entry level point for a much more complex discussion about what we want to do together in our own communities. So we use these simple tools, teaching people about gardening, teaching people about bikes, to start having more complex discussions about how we can work better together. Here in Hungary, it's a country of brilliant people with great ideas who have lost the sense of how to work together to create tangible projects. Or they lost the sense that something could potentially have meaning or that it has purpose. We need little projects like this. We need starting points to tell people that, yes, this collective activity, this talking together, planning together, it has purpose and it can snowball into having a bigger impact. Next. And it's not just us, it's not just Cargonomia and the farm. We have other partners who we work together with within a network. The key to survival as a small civic organization in Hungary, it's very, very similar in other places in Central Europe, is networking and using your creativity, because resources are never going to drop out of the sky. you're not going to get paid a lot for what you do. You're going to collect some donations, but it's not going to be a huge amount because the situation is tight for people here. Everyone faces the challenges of trying to earn an income and the fact that everything costs so much money here because of inflation. So the network is key for us. We work very closely with Goya Futar, which is a Goya bike messenger group just across the street here in the 8th district, who also has a wonderful bicycle repair, open bicycle repair center. And they work as bike messengers and employ a decent number of people who do deliveries. They try to work mostly with smaller businesses as well, so it's their choice of who they want to work with, and which has a basis in strong values. We also work closely with Cyclonomia, which is an open bike kitchen, which is operated in Budapest for more than 10 years. And together, we're stronger. Together, we can do more. This linkages of partnerships is really important for our communication and what we can do together. Next. Yeah, so I think I'm done with the presentation part of it because that's too boring and I don't hear anything from you. I can mention maybe some of the things that makes Cargonomia unique. One thing is that our activities, they take place about 50-50 in Budapest and 50-50 outside of Budapest. Some of them in Zsámbak, where the farm is, but oftentimes other places, Kistelek or other places, other smaller villages where they'll invite us to do a workshop. If we're talking about the situation here in Hungary and building consciousness, a lot of the consciousness is isolated within the city. Yeah, Budapest attracts young people thinking about a lot of things, maybe looking to build their own life. If we don't break down this isolation between city and countryside, we'll never have a sea change in consciousness here. And this is a similar case. Maybe we'll give the floor to René at some point to tell us more about Slovakia. He's from Slovakia. I think it's a similar situation between Bratislava and other parts of the countryside as well. Maybe we'll hear the same from our French colleagues. We have urban activity, urban consciousness, urban organization, but it doesn't have a crossover in the countryside, but it needs to, because we're not so different from each other. We have similar values. We probably talk and organize in different ways, but if we arrange ways for us to spend time together in a non-aggressive and very open way, we'll find bonds with people in the countryside. So we experiment with doing that. And that's why us as Cargonomia, inspired by degrowth, it's super important to have a tangible, credible project in the countryside where we can experiment. Now let's talk a bit about like degrowth. Can you, the audience, the people who I don't know, can you tell me if you ever heard about degrowth? No? Yeah?
In general, yes, but my brain is a bit fried with the heat and everything to bring the smart explanation. We're kind of reducing our collective consumption a little bit.
Yeah, but when you think of degrowth, do you think of like old bearded men and the fancy books that they wrote, or someone just
I don't really
standing?
know about them. No, I always think of kind of DIY things like for example, my brain is not working. There's a special way of growing things that grow things. Yeah, sorry. I can't figure it out. And now we know people who know about farming. No, it's the one we grow multiple plants together in a specific way. Consistency, just around water.
Permaculture?
Permaculture.
Okay. Yeah, so it's good that you associate degrowth with doing. The history of the degrowth as a concept and a movement is debated. There's the French side of it. There might be a more general European idea of who were the forefathers of degrowth. I personally think degrowth was linked to gender rights, civil rights movements, which came before the 1970s in France, to even indigenous peoples movements, which are hundreds of years old. And then it was given a name and given a more scientific concept around the 1970s, when some of the big criticisms of classical economics and neoclassical economics were starting to come about. So you had a big one landmark is the Club of Rome publishing the paper The Limits to Growth in the early 1970s, which were a group of scientists saying like, okay, post World War II, we aligned all of our economies to be based on mutual trade cooperation with increase in GDP as the main goal. We only have one planet worth of resources, and our population is getting bigger and bigger. We're going to run into a problem here. Actually, we ran into the problem already, and in our prediction tells us that around 2020, things are going to start getting really bad. This is what they told us in the 1970s. Around the same time, you also had an economist named Nikolai Georgescu-Roegen, Romanian descent, but working around Europe, who, from a physics perspective, tried to elaborate how on a fixed planet of physical resources, the prioritization of infinite growth is not achievable. Then you had the French philosophers who attached this theory that our obsession with growth is really dangerous, and it's dangerous from a human perspective as well. So it's one thing, you can talk about the science, we can talk about the climate, but we have many, many social problems related to the pursuit of the accumulation of wealth from a violence perspective, connected to the whole history of colonialization and conflict, but also from an interior psychological human perspective as well. There's interesting concepts that came out, like the fact that we sacrificed our own autonomy, personally, in the name of the market. So we're born not as Hungarians, we're not born as Europeans, we're not born as, yeah, we get a passport from our state institution, but there are already huge structures placed on us which change the way we think, which change the way we interact as humans, and which change the way we go through life. And this is also something that degrowth challenges. But I'm very happy that you said that when you think of degrowth, you think of the doing, you think of the creating new alternatives. Because at the start of the birth of the movement, this is what was about as important as the theoretical contributions. So that working together, building together, planning together, that was like half of the movement. Also then done in a complementary way for the theoretical part of the movement. What I worry about now is that degrowth as the movement science practice, the speaking part of it, or the science part of it, the research, the theoretical, the intellectual part of it, had starting to overshadow or to get more space than the practical part of it. So what we're trying to do as Ergonomia, an organization inspired by the intellectual history of degrowth, is put forward the practice part of it in a way that shows that you can do this, that the Ergonomia model is not the only way, but a small group of people working together with few resources can create something that has public benefit. That's one of our main goals. And then we can connect to this bigger degrowth, serious issues like public commenting, like appreciation for appropriate technology, like the solidarity economy, like thinking about how to live life without state-issued currency, all of these things. We can also talk about how to pay more attention to the uncompensated and unacknowledged contributions related to care work in the world, which in the whole world is unfairly the burden of women. And this is not talked about in our standard GDP measured economy, and this is an important part of degrowth narratives as well, acknowledging this, acknowledging an eco-feminist perspective, and one that challenges the traditional economic systems to realize that care is a massive part of the current economy, which we ignore. So what we try to do is put the, what can you say, not the D back in degrowth, but put the work, the actual practice back in the degrowth, and show that through our example. So that's about all I wanted to cover in the introduction. I hope it gave you an idea of what we do and how we work together. The last thing I would touch on, and it's interesting because we have two of our official trainees in the room, and one trainee's brother who's here working with us. So I told you I work in a university, and it makes me sometimes sad, the restrictions of a traditional degree program, which force most of the people who pass through university to pretty much get used to sitting in a room talking about things and doing something with their brain to either write or explain back to the same group of people sitting in the room something about what they talked about in class. For many years, I wanted to challenge this institutional model of just classroom learning, high-level intellectual output in documents and reports and data sets, and say that practical learning, like learning how to do things with your hands, has a really, really important place in higher academia as well. And we don't have the resources to start our own university ourselves. So what we tried to do in the last few years in Ergonomia was create an open learning opportunity for anyone who wanted to learn more about agroecology, self-organized collective organization, bicycle repair, building with natural materials. And we informally created this program a number of years ago. It's been running for 7 years, and in the last 7 years, probably 70 or 80 young persons, most of them in a university program, have come and spent at least 3 to 5 to 6 months with us. And the way it works is that, when they arrive, they're accepted as team members, not as like, okay, this is the person who stays silent and whatever, makes the coffee if we have a meeting. It's not like that at all. They're kind of thrown into the fire of what it's like in a week at Ergonomia. To work on the farm, to help us go out into public and do our events, to help with the vegetable box distribution, to come to discussions like this, to see how we plan and talk and interact. And we see this as an opportunity to get much closer to the real world than what is typically offered to them in their degree program as an engineer or as a social scientist or as a political scientist. So that's one way we're addressing this lack of opportunities for practice-based learning. Hopefully we hear more from the guys, but I think this has been a great opportunity for us to welcome new people to our team, but also learn from them as well. So I want to stop here and hopefully have more of an open discussion. And I didn't get deeper into the food subject. I could stand here and talk for 5 hours about the agroecology in Central Europe, but I don't know if it's your point of interest. But if you want to go deeper into what is the situation in farming here in Hungary right now, I'm happy to answer any questions. But please, let's kind of have more of an open discussion at this point. Good.
We have another microphone.
Mm-hmm.
Just so if anyone wants to ask a question, people back home can hear your question as well. As a starter, I wanted to ask a bit funnier question. How is it that every volunteer, in 90% of your volunteers are French people?
Yeah, I can answer and they can answer. I don't think it's 90, it's probably closer to 80, which is not a big difference. But let's be realistic about our trainee program is we can't pay people because we as the people who manage Ergonomia, we do it voluntarily. None of us earns a filaire, forint, from Ergonomia activities. And this is a challenge, but also something that helps Ergonomia maintain its autonomy. Have any of you started your own civic organization before, or are you part of one now? Do you have your own NGO, informal or informal? Not NGO. Okay, but do you have your own informal working group?
There was a point actually, if we talk about so for a while,
Mm-hmm.
in London, so we were crippled by things like rent and bills and taxes, and we had to charge rent to be able to use a social space, and it became impossibly difficult.
Yeah.
And we had to organize, we had to have named people on boards of directors and all of that stuff in order to apply to get grants to pay the rent for the space so people could use it. So you end up in a lot of red tape and complexity, and responsibility on named people that becomes quite stressful.
I'm super happy with your answer because you explained the process. You're in organization, you have good ideas, you start going, you start achieving some things. It starts to take more time, it starts to take more resources, and it starts to take more people hours. And at that point, you need to make a very tough decision. Do you want to start spending more of your time pursuing these resources? Or do you want to still just carry on as you did at the beginning when you used your informal resources, your solidarity network to plan, create, use space, and organize events? And Cargonomia has existed for 10 years. We just had our 10th anniversary this year. We maintain pretty close to that original working model, which is that we don't need to be reliant on having outside sources of funding come in for us to be active. And we want to stay that way because that helps us preserve an autonomy in decision making. It becomes hard when we have these real world challenges. We have a cargo bike center. We have 12 cargo bikes and trailers parked there. We need to use electricity there, water there. We need to rent that space. That's when you get faced with these challenges. Like, should we try to have some financing mechanism? I would ask any person that you know who works for an official, what we would be considered association or foundation, and ask them how much of their time is spent on project work and how much is spent on fundraising, reporting, or searching for the next project. And this simple question started with, why are most of the people from France? Okay, so in our training program, we can't pay people. Who would have the opportunity to spend time with us? It's people who, well, it would be rare that they had some financial cushion and wanted to take time off, but it's mostly students who are in a higher education program whose degree program says do an internship, 1, and 2, we accept non-official, non-traditional businesses as internship hosting sites. I'm not the expert on the French higher education system, but I respect the fact that 1, they challenge many students to do an internship, and 2, they accept things besides an official government ministry or some bank or some big engineering company as host sites. That works well with our program because the French students have to do a traineeship. If they're lucky, they get some sort of student support or funding when they spend time with us. But I will say it's a credit to anyone who spends time with us as a trainee that they are taking somewhat of a risk because we're not necessarily maybe the most famous name to put on your CV. And you have to do some form of self-financing while you're here as well to have a place to stay. Of course, we're trying to get them as many organic veggies as possible, but that doesn't help you pay the rent. So that's why many people are French. We have a close partnership with a university in the Czech Republic, and one of the professors helps encourage students to come spend time with us if they seem to have the right profile. And also, why there's still more French is because after a few years of doing the program, the best advertisement for what we do is not a Cargonomia post or like a tab on our website, but it's someone who enjoyed the program who went back and told other people about it. Feel free to add anything.
Yeah, it's about the French people, it's kind of all this stuff. And I think another point is like big growth, low tech, all this kind of alternative stuff. It's become more and more popular in France. We have more and more like face this type of association or movement in cities. So yeah, but yeah, I don't really know how far is the case in other countries, but in France, yeah, especially like in engineering and political science, big high school, it's become more and more like in conversation.
Okay. Well, I can vouch only for the Czech Republic in this case because it's spent my university years there, and it is not. I'm absolutely sure it's not very popular with the engineering studies. It is mainly the sociology and I'm studying environmental studies, and it's on the faculty of social studies, so it's connected with this much more than with engineering.
Yeah, we've had
For me, it was exactly like that. The friends of mine did it a year ago, and a classmate of mine, 2 years older, she did it 2 years ago. So that's how we learned about this opportunity.
And I could say we've had Hungarian trainees, but typically when they were going in a university program in Denmark, where they encouraged them to do an internship, where they had a decent student stipend. And then they came back, did their traineeship here in Hungary. But I'll also tell you, so if we decide to pay the trainees, what changes? The application program becomes much more strict, because we need to decide, okay, 10 people applied, who do we accept? Until now, we mostly accepted almost everyone who seemed truly interested. If there's some stipend program happens, then we need to do this weird process of, okay, this candidate gets the stipend, but then we tell this one, okay, you can come, but without the stipend, and that's a big complication. One thing that we're working on to address some of the costs is that we're trying to finally renovate an Adobe building in the village where the farm is, so that we can offer accommodation to a few of the trainees in the future. We're still some years away from that, but that's one way to have a commons-based learning project which is connected to our values of building with natural materials and saving an old house, and also address this housing cost solidarity contribution issue at the same time.
Did you talk about low tech? Because I think one very interesting thing about guys is low tech, how like Tristan, I know that he made the whole bike with like low tech. So can you talk about a bit more about like low tech and why? Is it part of degrowth or is it like separately? Like how? So
I'd be very sure.
Yeah.
And then I turn it over to Tristan, because he has much more experience and actually doing more of it. Low tech is a common phrase, but it's a bit problematic in that it sounds like dumb tech or not tech. It's more appropriate technology. And the appropriateness means that it's accessible. It means that it's not patented and controlled by only a small number of people. And it means that you should have access to it without necessarily needing to pay for it. So you could have low-tech applications in many things, in like computer programs, in physical technology that we use, or in tools you need for the job. And it's very connected to some of the degrowth narratives and values of doing more with simple, accessible tools, which don't have a massive embedded environmental footprint or social footprint, and sharing these tools, and also sharing the knowledge of how to use them. So we release ourselves from the commodification of our everyday lives, meaning like we don't know how to do something, we don't have the tools to do it, so we need to pay for it. So the appropriate technology, the low tech, connects to this, making these tools and the knowledge available to everyone.
Yeah, so good definition.
But explain, Tristan's an engineer. Explain, or studying engineering. Explain your interest as an engineer to the idea of low tech.
So, I'm coming from a mechanical engineering school in France. And during my whole study, I always worrying with the fact of why I learned so much technical stuff for at the end like become an engineer in a big factory, making like the most cheapest, the most fastest line production, and I didn't find like something like really interesting, and I discovered low tech like two years ago. Low tech it's a word we put in France to define this type of stuff. But I think there are lots of people in the world, in lots of countries, who actually do some low-tech things without putting this word low-tech. Um, so yeah, in my case, I come to Cargonomia because I'm really interested in cargo bike and all special cycle stuff to move things, to transport people. There are an association in France called Veloma, made by Adrian, one of the founders of Cargonomia. He went in 2018 in France, created the Veloma, and I work very close with this guy to design and create some new cargo bike, new bike trailer, because it's something quite new at the scale of like industrial, modern world, and there are lots of things to improve yet. And yeah, Lotec, it's really interesting because you create new thing, you take like the good stuff from the old age and the good stuff from the modern age and try to find the most the best balance between like high tech and more primary technology. I can talk about the project I made during my last 6 months. I'm in Cargonomia, I'm in Budapest since February, and I will unfortunately leave in 1 week. I designed and built something we call the marchet. It's like a big bike trailer. You can put like 200 kilograms on. And it was one of the Logan idea at first to sell the product from the farm, but only by bike. So we create like a market stand, so you can transport and show vegetables. Ah, 24, the marché. And yes, it was my first project, like design and building, when I really wanted to use a low-tech approach. So the less material possible, the most simple design, the most polyvalent, let's say polyvalent, modulable, flexible object, because you can make a market stand with, but it's like basically just 3 panels of wood with some steel and fixation. So you can make like sorry. You can make like a cinema screen, you can make a big table, or make a bar. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So now it's used by Cargonomia and lots of little markets on Sunday.
Yeah. Just to close, low tech is applicable in, for example, on the farm. I said we do mostly hand labor, but it would be really inefficient not to use tools. And there are tools that some we bought, but some we create ourselves to help do the job on the farm, which are easy to use if you're not confident with big machines, if you're not, if you're a tall person, short person, everything in between. So this would also be considered a low tech or appropriate tech as well. Even the approach to farming, which is not based on the chemical and the machine, but the human and the understanding of nature working in cooperation together, that's also understood as low tech or appropriate technology. And it's not anti or agnostic towards tech. There are some ways in which a technology comes out and we could change it so it becomes more appropriate and accessible as well.
And like degrowth is not the opposite of growth. Like low tech is not the opposite of high tech. The goal is to rethink the process.
Yeah.
Make it more humane.
Yeah, makes sense.
I was curious about how you made connections with the farm in the first place. So was it like you already knew, or somebody in the project already knew somebody at the farm, and then like, hey, let's do something together, or was it the Cognomia came in from the city and was like, hey, we want to do this, can we do this together? How did that like initial process look?
Yeah, I worked on the farm before Cargonomia existed, so that was one thing that helped. But the idea of Cargonomia came from connecting together like-minded but very different groups just to see what would happen. And that emerged from an interesting time in Budapest, which was around 2010 to let's say 2012 or 13, which isn't so long ago, but it was a different time, especially as far as costs, pressures on civic organizations, and I would even say the environment of typical social life, which at that time, I won't say everything was perfect, but the conditions for experimenting were better than they are right now, where things cost more, where there's more pressure on organizations, and where I'm just not sure that the collective action is at the center of a lot of social events, or as many as it was during that time. I'm not so sure that a lot of people who were doing things at that time are still in the country, or if they are, they got tired, or got burnt out, or got somewhat forced into submission. So that time was important, but also the fact that the people who founded Cargonomia were kind of bringing something different, but not just looking to focus on that one issue with people who also only focused on that issue, but the way to connect it together. And the connection with the farm. So the farm is its own independent organization business trying to figure out a way to survive in a very difficult environment. So to try to create an alternative farm, which doesn't choose the most cost-efficient way to grow food, stuck within the globalized exploitation-based global food system, it's really, really hard to try to figure out how to make that work. So if you talk to people from the farm, they would understand now the common goals or base values in degrowth because of us being there working together for 10 years. But I don't necessarily think they would say that the farm is a degrowth farm. And they don't have to, because what they're doing is super extreme, clear example of the compatible futures which we need to create if degrowth is going to be achievable. This type of farming, which looks to work together and build a healthy ecosystem instead of being extractivist, that's what we need more of in the future. And we need to help people it's not the goal that everyone becomes a farmer in the future, but that we have a lot of different businesses or ways that people could find security. Yeah, some of it's financial, but a lot of it's social and communal. We need more of these type of opportunities. So there's a natural potential partnership there. And I would also say, if Cargonomia didn't have a tangible connection to other organizations like the farm, it would be less credible. Yeah, of course we have our cargo bikes. Yeah, of course we have our projects in education. But this connection to the farm gives us a dose of the reality that it takes to try to make a business with degrowth compatible values in mind. And it's really hard. And so we learn a lot. But I have one foot in both. So I'm talking here as Cargonomia because it's a general project, but I am speaking on behalf of the farm as well.
So how did you find that farm that was working on what we call as degrowth principles without saying that? How did you come across that? Was that through just being in the farming world, like working there already?
Yeah, and also I should say that Jamboki Biocare is not the only farm working to put agroecology, regenerative organic agriculture, permaculture into practice and live from it. I would like to say there's thousands of these farms active in Hungary. There's not thousands, but there's dozens or maybe close to 100. And we know each other. We're working hard to interact more. Time is a massive challenge from a farm team's perspective. It's the best to organize well-timed opportunities for farmers to meet on farms together and not have just someone talk to them in a building, but let them explore and share. And this is something, as much as we can, from the Jambok farm, try to organize, not always at our place, but going to other places, and this is really helpful. I was a student here in Budapest at a university which is not here anymore because it was kicked out and went to Austria. And at that time, I wasn't satisfied with a degree that told me I understood climate science. I wanted to, the main thing I was thinking about was, okay, yeah, climate change is a massive issue. The world is going to hell. I want to physically do something about it. Now I understand a bit more about the bigger causal issues, but I want to be really embedded in a practical solution. So with a shiny new piece of paper, which I got from the university, I went around to a lot of different farms and started spending time with farmers, volunteering. And the reason that the Jambok project attracted me at that time was because the times I went there, there was always other people there besides the people who worked on the farm. Either learning, asking a lot of annoying questions, volunteering, maybe a group of children, a school group. And that was really exciting to me, because that's the way you show people the difference in this type of agriculture compared to conventional agriculture. And that's the community building aspect. So that's why I stayed there. And I did a lot of volunteering. So I proved that I could do the work, and I proved that I could be helped. And for people still ask me, like, oh, how did you figure out this perfect balance between a bit of time doing intellectual things, a bit of time doing practical things? And if I just tell the story once, it seems like it's really easy and I found this perfect zen point in life. It's not easy. It's like having to be ready to do very different things every day. There's chaos in all of it. It's very fulfilling because it's not repetitive and it's not boring. And you see the tangible result of your work every day. But the most valuable thing I did when I was searching for answers was go closer to the people who were doing work which was inspiring for me, like the work on the farm, going to meet the people who founded the farm, and I just became basically a pain in their ass, like showing up regularly and saying, okay, what could I do? How could I help? Until I proved that it probably would be good if I stuck around there, and that's how I started working there. And then a year or so later is the Cargonomia founding period, so I already had a relationship to the farm.
And you're working with Guya as well?
Yeah, yeah. So this place here, I guess those of you who are here as guests maybe don't know the full history yet. This isn't the first Goya location. It's, I guess, third if you count. I don't know. Frisco, Goya were in the same place in Bocajanos. But Goya has always had a really strong core spine of actors who were embedded in the community here in Budapest and elsewhere. So yes, this place is an event center, concert place, but it's a really meaningful social space and space for exchanging ideas. So for a long time, when we started as Cargonomia, we knew many of the people who were the organizers of Frisco and then the first Goya. So if we wanted to have an event, we would typically have an event at Goya. Because why would we go somewhere else? We wanted to support Goya by bringing people there. Eventually, something interesting happened, was that Goya was historically existed in a building which they didn't own. And it was a wonderful place, but the way they, completely based on speculation, zoned the area around the old Goya. These big skyscrapers and new buildings where they knocked down the old flats and built some square box with a bunch of fancy apartments, which happens in a lot of districts in this city and other places. It started to creep closer and closer and closer to Goya. And then the person who owned the Goya building, of course, they weren't crazy. They decided that it probably would be a better business decision for them to sell that space and let it be knocked down and turn it into some big new building rather than just let this small collective keep renting from them. So the people who managed Goya took the strong decision for the long-term future of their organization to try to buy a space. And that's very risky because you see the size of the space. They had to pull together a lot of resources. So it was their own resources operating as a cooperative, and they had to crowdfund a lot as well. And what they got with their huge amount, well, certain amount of money, was like a dilapidated old factory building, this one we're in, which was filled with junk, with a partially collapsed roof, with no credible water systems, heating systems, and they had to build this with their own hands and volunteer work. And I'm really proud that they have this stability because now they own the space. They're not going to be harassed by the city. Well, they could still be harassed by the city because that's how things work here. Not by the city, but probably by some other level of government. But they own this space, so they have more autonomy in protecting the fact that they can be here and what happens here, and that's a great achievement. When they were getting very close to the point of finally being able to open the space and start having events to earn back some of that income that they spent, it was right when COVID started. So they had a bunch of people in the cooperative who were waiting to start being able to earn a wage from having a social center, and they couldn't have events. So at that point, they were thinking about how can we figure out a way for some of our collective members to earn an income. So they founded their own bike messenger company. But they didn't really have as many cargo bikes as they needed to do the job. Cargonomia, right at that point, 2019. We used to rent a space in the 7th district and pay a lot of money for it from private owners. We were sick and tired of paying that much, and then the guy came to us and said, okay, your rent next year is like 40% higher. So we said, no thank you, and went away. We had a bunch of bikes, which we didn't know what to do with them, and so this kind of happened by fate, but also good timing, gave all of our bikes to Goya and let them form a bike messenger company, which they did. They launched it and used our bikes for 3 years, just at a solidarity exchange to have their messenger company. Eventually, we were able, through the support of the 8th district municipality, get a rent-controlled space in Másodikianos Papa Square, which isn't far from here. So we got a number of our bikes back, but we let this partnership go on. So it was a very formal one, giving resources, but informal as well, as far as communicating each other's events, co-coordinating some communications, and we still have a close partnership up until now.
I think Romania and Goya is very famous for solidarity. Goya is, I think, one of the biggest bars in Budapest that shows solidarity with everyone. There's no other place where you can see Palestine and pro refugee space, and it's incredible to see that there's not just one place in Budapest. There's Carbonia, there's so many other places that I think they base their exchange on solidarity. And I think it's really important. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah. Is there any other question?
Yeah.
How Carbonia and Goya communicate with the rest of Budapest?
Yeah,
Because here, for example, we are not a lot. So how can we?
Yeah. Well, it's getting people's attention is always a challenge. So what we're doing today is independently organized event happening at Korea, which I guess was advertised together. I'll be honest and say like this public communication from the perspective of Carbonomia is definitely one of our least favorite things that we need to try to do, and something that we're not the best at. Co-communicating helps a lot. Social media has its limitations. So I feel much better personally when the benefit of our activity happens through face-to-face communication. If you're talking about how to get 200 people at an event, it's not good enough just to tell the people in person. You need to have some communication strategy. And so we need to try to figure out this world of whatever social media communication and advertising. But at least for us, it's never the main goal to have big numbers. It's the goal to have big impact in the people who actually take part. And hopefully you could eventually have some of that together. But as far as like how do we work together? So with the Goya Futar, the Goya Bike Messenger company, we're not perfect at it yet, but we've started to like create content together, create events together, and link our two communities together. So when we had our 10th anniversary celebration, most of the Goya Messenger team was there, and they also shared with people what was happening. When they borrow our bikes, we make posts and communication together. They actually help us repair a lot of our bikes when we don't have time. So we try to, give a return communication about that. With Goya is bigger than Goya Messenger team and Carbonomia. I would like to. I think Goya has power in reaching a bigger base. They have some people who are focused on communication, but also Goya it's a social cooperative which it's a really, really interesting model. So it's not just socially minded, but if you work at Goya, you're a member, a cooperative member. You pay into it and you get certain ownership. So there's like a lot of the background that happens in Goya, which is about the organizational management to maintain a cooperative, because it's complex to do that. So they have a lot of they have different teams, the Goya messengers, the Goya builders, the people who work at the bar staff, the people who organize events, like 50, 60 person organization with a governing body. I understand why they might forget to make a post about Carbonomia and Goya Futar once in a while. So it would be helpful, but it's just with all the other things that you gotta take care of, it gets lost somehow. The same thing with us. We ask our trainees a lot to help us with making posts. I'll just share personally, I hate just this idea that I only need to live vicariously through these romanticized pictures that we send into the internet world. Like for me, it's more important to have that interaction with the people in person when we're doing the events. This historic documentation and sharing our story is important. For me, this is more important than a picture with 500 likes of people I'll never see. So that's in the modern era necessary, but this slow and very personal interaction, I think, has much more benefit in actually getting new projects started, new ideas in people's heads. So, yeah, it would be great if we whatever. I definitely would not want to become an electronic influencer. If somehow Carbonomia's projects, Goya's projects could have a bigger reach, in at least filtering the bullshit that most people see when they're doing this, especially young people, then it's beneficial. But this slow, direct engagement is much more important from my perspective.
If I could add something from a perspective from a different city, because we're having this conversation a lot in some spaces in London, because it's hard for groups to meet each other or for people who are new to a place to find out what's going on and to find what activities or what spaces they can go to, what groups they can join, or what, because everything is kind of hidden behind algorithms of Facebook and Instagram, and it's very unusable. Like, we just landed in Budapest, we didn't know anything. We didn't know where to find, how to find out where to go. Like, we had to ask somebody, and we got the name of Goya, and then we had to go on the Facebook and then find out what's happening. That just did not feel quite radical or easy or to navigate. So, I mean, in London, there's been a big push, like in some other cities in Europe, to kind of use, at least for events, a kind of notice board like online space that is not social media and it's not hidden behind algorithms and it's not putting influencer posts. It's just you posting your event, and then people can go on and say filter by city or by country and see what the events are. Just clearly that events that are radical events or anarchist events, and just find out what's going on. We tried that. No, but there's no events in Budapest on that website.
That's radar.
Yeah, we tried radar.net because that's the one that we're using currently in London a bit, and I think there's another one, but I think that's exclusively for London. And so I feel it's quite important to move off social media and back to the old school way of platforms that we own and we run that are not sexy or not fancy, but we can find each other. And like, if you're new to the city, you can find out radical events without having to go to Facebook.
Yeah, we need to, our municipality, where we're located, is trying to do this. And I would be happy to go through their event calendar, but they're still working towards making it have a big reach. But it's great you have an alternative in London.
Or in Athens, because I'm originally from Athens. I mean, we do have a lot of alternative online sites, but also because we can poster in the streets and the government doesn't take it down immediately. You can just walk in certain neighborhoods and just look at the posters and you can find out what's going on kind of physically just by being in the street.
Yeah, one of my main issues with this event was like where there's the posters. Like, there's like 5 boards, like Sheer, Aurora, and like that's it. Like, outside, no one will like.
And I think maybe just because I was also based for a while in Athens, I think like kind of the grassroots kind of atmosphere in Athens is very, very different. Not just a question of like.
It's to find what works for each city.
Kind of, but I think it's also like, as you said, like since 2010, yeah, either people are burnt out or like they are away somewhere else. It's like, I have no idea how to say it, but like, I do think finding the old is very much shrinking. So it's like,
It might be a matter of going to specific spaces. Like, we can't flyer in London on the walls because they immediately, but we can go to other specific social spaces or bookshops that we know that people will go to and stick flyers there. That works quite well. It is more physical and less. It's more low
and
tech.
word of mouth too. Yeah.
One thing going back to Goya, I just started working in Goya, and this has been such an interesting experience because they have so many like systems in place to be like, they have a mentor program, like they try to hold your hand walking through this like a bit untraditional structure. It's just a wonderful thing to see that it's been for a lot of things. Thank you.
Can I ask actually one more question? Like you mentioned that everybody's volunteering part of the year, right? Like, so how does it look like? Like, you guys have like 40 hours of job beside it and then you volunteer, or you?
No, there's like 3 of us left who are from the original founders, and out of the 3, the time input goes in waves based on who is available, whose life gives them the chance to participate physically. There's certain times of year where the time input is higher than others. So Carbonomia at work might take like 20 hours per week when the weather is nice enough to be outside, and it might take 10 hours per week when winter months. And then we kind of have to share this input based on our own capacity. And then we also share it with the trainees who spend time with us. But to be able to share with people who are not from our core historic team, that adds to the necessary time per week because it includes training, interaction, teaching, showing, spending time with people. So they're not just like, okay, now you arrive, I run away, you do this thing. It's like it's a mutual exchange. One way in which we're lucky is that our jobs which we might earn an income from are not completely separate from what Corgonomia is. In fact, being connected to Corgonomia empowers part of our direct income earning jobs. That's pretty hard to find, but it's not impossible. And I'll try to explain that more practically. Like, I work on the farm, that's another job that I have. I teach sometimes in a university, which is another job I can earn an income from. I'm much better at teaching about transition and agroecology because of the work I can do at Cogonomia and because of the work that the lived experience from the farm. So that's they complement each other. If we get into money trouble, it's typically when like there's something out of our control, like deciding to rent a space. We had to see if it fit into the budget and then make a budget for this. Then like the rest of it is just like, would it be nice to have a welder? Yes, it would be nice to have a welder. Can we buy this? Okay, yeah, it fits this year. Would we like to have another cargo bike? Okay, do we want to build it? Do we want to try to buy a used one? Does it fit this year? Yes or no? But otherwise, the box distribution goes on. Our outreach programs and teaching go on. The cargo bike sharing system goes on because the infrastructure is already there.
It would come from crowdfunding or donation, right?
It would come from donations. It would come from if we go somewhere and in certain cases the organizer has a budget, we would be happy to go to a place and teach, show, build, garden, and through our foundation could give an invoice for this event, and it comes back and goes into the foundation's budget, which we could only respend on foundation-related activities. But it's not a personal income. The third option, which we don't typically pursue, is that we would be eligible for things like continuing adult education projects through Erasmus Plus, which I have much more good things to say about Erasmus Plus as opposed to Horizon, European Union research funding, which is a closed world for academia. Erasmus is more open to civic society and especially outside of European exchanges, but that also requires a project application team and time. Okay, so I think we could wrap up the official part and then just keep talking, or you guys talk. It was really great to have the chance to speak in front of you. Yeah, I put this contact here because anytime you're passed back through Budapest, you can get in touch with us or write to us. And we know that there's a lot of other organizations doing similar things outside of Hungary, and we're usually in close contact with them. So if you have questions about like-minded organizations in different countries, feel free to contact us. Okay, thanks.
Wherever you go to school,
Yeah.
it's some fresh air.
Hi.
this is polo, rice and chicken combined.
I have not a lot of items for this. We not make a complicated. There is a lot of more things in that we make short because this is not a proper place and a proper things. First, we make onions, in which they make a color change, and we add some chilies, green chilies. After this, we add chicken. After 15 minutes, 20 minutes, we add rice and spices, masalas, garam masala, chili powder, slow heat. Yes, slow heat, and wait 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
The food represents the origin of the movement and of everything that we are fighting for. Somehow it is like the seed. It was the beginning of 2017 where some people trapped in Serbia and some volunteers and activists, they went there to see how they could help. These both groups, they meet each other and they start cooking together. They start sharing, there was a little crowdfunding. First day, we cook a little bit. Second day, more people, more cooking. Third day, more people, more volunteers arriving, more people coming from the border, cooking. And then there was a self-reflection of, hey, we are something. Until now, we were individuals helping each other, but we are forming here a community, a family, an organization. I don't know, but we have a common identity. And the identities, they need a title, they need a name. So, well, it's a kitchen. We have 2 burners, some pots, it's a kitchen, no? Okay, but kitchen, okay. What kitchen? Kitchen. And somebody was more like, the kitchen without name. No, we don't have name as a kitchen. No name kitchen. And then the no name kitchen was born.
when we were preparing tagine on the beaches of Ceuta. We were preparing everything from zero. It was a whole process, no? Like it's just a moment where everything else disappears in that specific moment, you know, at least in my head. It's a moment that brings people together, no? It doesn't matter the day, what's gonna happen. I come from a very big family, and food has always been like super important moment. We wait for everyone, we sit down together and we eat together, no? It doesn't matter how tough the day has been or any other problem. When we are at the table together, we are a family, we are together, and I see this as well at the border. It doesn't matter what we went through during the day. In that specific moment, when there is the food, we sit down, we eat together, and get out from the problems of the day, you know. I'm not saying that the problems are not important. It's just that specific moment. Everything else is not there. Just to have a break from the reality, enjoy the food, share it together, a very like happy moment, and a moment of like that brings people together.
So we put like around like 10 onion, then we put some aubergine, pepper, and then like tomato sauce. But the most important thing, we put salt and then cumin and like other spices to make it a little spicy. And now it's already like 1 hour that it's cooking. Yeah? Yes. You see the bubble.
Bubbles.
So that one was an experiment with like it's salad made by Gnesa and Bruno that were not cooking together and like since 2017. And they make this creation and it's salad with yogurt. Let's see, let's give a try. Let's see if the people like. If not, we are gonna eat it.
Okay. We heard that it was the first evictions of Serbian police was because of this. the legend. They create the commissariat after this.
I learn a lot on the field. I learn that we don't need a proper kitchen to cook with a fire. Just a fire, people can prepare very delicious dishes. I learn that hand gel is very good to start the fire. I learn that people don't drink tea with sugar, but sugar with tea. And also I learn, even if looks like it's difficult to cook in this environment with the violence of the borders and so on, it's also a moment that a person can escape from this violence and just do a normal activity. And also I really enjoy cooking. So.
من غير ما تحاول want to cook jollof rice, you will start by olio. When olio boil, like when olio is hot, you put your meat to fry. After you put, onion and carrot, any vegetable, you can put any vegetable you like. After you take rice with olio, you will put water there, leave that water boil, after you put your rice there. Now that soup you make, put the soup inside the on the top. Yes. Like this thing is, our place is like our tribes. If I have baby, I want to do Navy ceremony. When many people came, it's this jollof rice you cook for them. It's not only in our country have this. Even Mali, Senegal, Nigeria, they all know. This is our tradition and it's very nice. I like it.
On est arrivé à 21h de hier. Ouais, en même temps. On était hier 21h. Ouais, jusqu'à aujourd'hui, jusqu'à 13h30, tu nous as laissé. On était 20 personnes dans une chambre. C'était vraiment difficile, même pour respirer, pour prendre quelque chose. Il n'y a pas d'eau, il n'y a pas même condition qu'on pouvait se retrouver. Il y a vraiment une condition, c'était une condition mauvaise. C'était une condition qui est absolue. On pouvait pas même. Nous, on était même choqués quand on nous a mis dans une chambre 20 personnes. Pendant la nuit, on n'arrivait pas à respirer parce que moi j'ai des problèmes aussi, des problèmes de respiration. Ils ne pouvaient pas manger, ils ne pouvaient pas respirer. Du coup, ils n'ont pas même envie de manger parce que l'endroit c'était sale. J'ai passé hier, aujourd'hui. Moi, ça m'a dégoûté vraiment même à retourner en France parce que même conditions, c'est pas vraiment gentil. Parce que la France et l'Italie, c'est à côté, c'est comme un pays, deux pays voisins. La condition des personnes, la condition aussi de la police, ils sont trop racistes. Après, il y avait une gala, un nostro amico era un po' arrabbiato perché diceva che troppo ore e questo carabiniere qua l'aveva sbattuto, l'ha preso così per dire che oh tu nel tuo paese di merda, cioè.